26.3 Estimated VO2 max. There are different types of athletes that require different levels of VO2 max. For example, a long distance cyclist or runner need a higher VO2 max, as they will need to be able to work for a longer period of time, so need a constant supply of oxygen going around the body to the muscles. And by having a higher VO2 max, it means that they can take in more oxygen per breath, meaning they can get more oxygen in and oxygenate the muscles for longer periods of time. Furthermore, sports like football would require a high VO2 max as they're running around for 90 plus minutes. However, it can also depend on their position, because a winger who's running up and down the pitch a lot more compared to a goalkeeper. Finally, sports that are more power events like weightlifting or shot put would not require as high of a VO2 max. This is because their sports require short bursts of energy and not prolonged contractions of a muscle group. So depending on your sport depends on how great of a VO2 max you need. Absolute and relative values. Absolute VO2 max is the absolute rate in litres of oxygen per minute, but the larger massed athlete will use more oxygen, so to allow for comparison to be made between other athletes, relative values are used. Relative VO2 max is the relative VO2 max is the relative in milliliters of oxygen per kilogram of body mass per minute. The relative rate is often used to compare the performance of endurance sporting athletes. Absolute VO2 is calculated as litres per minute, and relative VO2 max is milliliters divided by kilograms per minute. Direct and indirect measures of VO2 max are different. This is because tests that use direct measures of a person's VO2 max use technology in a computer to measure the amount of oxygen taken in and out per breath, and by doing this you can get a wholly accurate result. Direct measures of a person's VO2 max include gas analysis. This is because when using a gas analysis machine, a machine is strapped to the front of the face and only allows for gas entry one way, so it can measure how much gas comes in and out. Indirect measures of VO2 max would include things like the Queen's College Step Test or the multi-stage fitness test. This is because they take a score that a person has achieved in the test, and from this they put the score into an equation which estimates the participant's VO2 max. This is why it's an indirect measure of the VO2 max, as it's an estimation, so it's not wholly accurate. Looking at a study by Sanitella et al. 2013, they compared the differences in scores of gas analysis machine and indirect measure of VO2 max. This test was completed on an ergometer bike, and results found through a Pearson's correlation test showed the results from the test had a p-value of 0.001. This is considerably below 0.05, showing that there is a significant difference. There is no significant difference in using the direct and the indirect test, but this was using a maximal test. Maximal and submaximal tests are also different when testing for VO2 max. The difference between a maximal and submaximal test is how much effort the participant has to put in. A maximal test means they're using the full amount of effort compared to a submaximal where they aren't. The reason you'd use a submaximal test would be because participants cannot complete a maximal test. This could be for many reasons, like they have an injury or their age prevents them from doing so. I found a study that was looking into the prediction of maximal aerobic power from the multi-stage fitness test, and their VO2 max was measured during the graded treadmill test on 40 men and 40 women with the average age of 20, where they then after completed the multi-stage fitness test, where the results with the prediction of their VO2 max. The results from this study show that the differences in the predicted score and their actual score from the gold standard. For females, they had a range predicted of 32 to 53, and their measured range being 32 to 61, with males having a predicted range of 26 to 60 and a measured range of 36 to 70. With these scores, this shows that there's a big difference between the two, showing that the predicted isn't as representative and reliable, meaning that it's less valid uh, due to the different results not being accurate or precise as precise as the gold standard measurements. The test protocol to the participants. The pre-test procedures that are required for the multi-stage fitness test include the test protocol to participants, performing a health screening, and obtaining an informed consent to perform on the test. The informed consent and health screening will be on the next slide once I've finished this. Oh wait, no, okay. There you go. There's the informed consent and the FAQ. Furthermore, the participant needs to give basic information like their age, height, weight, gender, and also the test conditions need to be noted down. The running space of 10 meters needs to be found and needs to be measured out and marked with enough space each end for a runoff. And finally, the participants need to be fully warmed up. And the health screening, the equipment needed to undertake the tests are markers to mark, so that can be cones, to mark the distance between the running points, and a speaker loud enough to be heard so the participants know when to run. The conditions need to be on a flat surface, and the participants should have grippable shoes so they do not slip over. The protocol involves playing the pre-recorded tape of the bleeps, and from here the participant has to move between the two marked points before the next bleep goes off until they cannot make it to the next marker. This is in their score. Their score is known as the tape lets the participants know of the level by stating it to them, and each shuttle run is a different sub-level. For example, if you manage the 4th shuttle run on the 5th level, your score would be 5-4. The participant should also be wearing a heart rate monitor so the heart rate can be monitored and recorded at the time. The score is then entered into a calculator from which their predicted VO2Max is found. The method for the Queen's College step test includes the same pre-test procedures and explaining the protocol to the participants, performing a health screening and informed consent, and furthermore the participant needs to give again their basic information like their height, weight, age, gender, and the conditions of the test. Furthermore, the step height needs to be checked, and the metronome needs to be set to the correct time. The protocol for the Queen's College step test starts with the participant standing both feet on the floor, facing the step, which is at 41.3 or 16.25 inches. The rate of the stepping is 22 steps per minute for the females and 24 steps per minute for males. And the participants, in time with the metronome, move a foot per beat at a time up onto the step and back down onto the floor in an up, up, down, down pattern. This action is performed for 3 consecutive minutes, and after the participant stops, immediately after they are completing a test and counting their heart rate for 15 seconds. This score is then multiplied by 4 to get their heart rate for the test. And after this, the score is put into an equation to get an estimated VO2 max score. For males, the equation is milliliters divided by kilograms divided by minutes. The equation is 111.33 minus 0.42 times heart rate, and for females the equation is 65.81 minus 0.1847 times heart rate. Looking at the results of the multi-stage fitness test and focusing on a singular athlete, looking at their relative VO2 max from the multi-stage fitness test, it shows that they have a relative VO2 max of 49.3 milliliters per kilogram per minute. And looking at normative values, the normative values levels table for the males of their age of 18, it shows that in their age category, a score of 49.3 would rank as average. From this, we can analyse their results against their chosen sport. For the participant, their sport was football, and looking at a study conducted by Kinet et al. 2019, who studied 150 professional footballers in the United States using the multi-stage fitness test. This was due to the ease and access of the test, as well as the amount of tests that the researcher had to conduct. Kinet et al. Found that the average VO2 max for professional footballers was 70.2 milliliters per kilogram per minute. This demonstrates that the participant in the test underperformed compared to the elite standard in their sport. Looking at the results of the Queen's College step test, and again focusing on the same singular athlete, looking at their results shows that the participant completed the test and had a heart rate of 30 BPM after finishing the test. This results in them receiving a VO2 max from their test of 60.9 milliliters per kilogram per minute. And from this, looking at normative values for males at the participant's age, who are regular people, not sporting performers, this shows that their score would have been classed as excellent when looking at their VO2 max in health ways. Furthermore, comparing to performers of the same sport, a study from Chatterjee et al. 2002 shows that when looking at professional footballers in League One, the third tier of English football, the study was comparing the reliability of the Queen's College step test and was comparing the results directly to the gas analysis. The study collected its results and put them into a t-test, which came back displaying a significant statistical correlation of p equaling 0.001. The results showed that the Queen's College step test scores of the players to be below 60.9. This means that the participant will need to improve their VO2 max to aid improving their performance. Oh, Christ. Looking at the strengths and weaknesses of the participant and their multi-stage fitness scores, along with their Queen's College step test score, it's clear to see that there are limitations to the participant's performance due to their VO2 max. This is because if their VO2 max was higher, it would allow them to work longer or have a lower heart rate in the Queen's College step test, as they would have more oxygen flowing around their body and the muscles would be oxygenated for longer. Whereas their VO2 max is considered average and will not be able to work for as long, meaning the standard of their performance will drop towards the end of the game. This can be improved upon by training specifically to increase their VO2 max. To increase their VO2 max, they can use a workout that included a 10-minute warm-up of easy jogging and stretches of the legs and hips and arms to get ready, followed by interval training of sprint for 10 seconds, jog for 10 seconds, sprint for 10 seconds, jog for 10 seconds, and doing that for a minute with a 30-second rest after each minute and repeating this 6 times. Interval training has been proven to be the most effective way of improving a person's VO2 max levels.